What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Flippin Bats. It is day 3 in Japan, and I am recording this episode on a bullet train to Iwate. We are going over 150 miles an hour right now as I record this, and this is, without a doubt, the fastest episode of a podcast ever. Now, maybe not in terms of duration, but certainly in terms of how fast we're going whilst recording this episode. Absolutely. So we're day 3 here. This is going to be the day 2 recap episode from my trip to Japan. Day 2 was unbelievable. An incredible day. It started with waking up, which is a good start to your day, if I might add. We were planning on going to a Tokyo Giants game at about 7 o'clock at night. First thing I read when I wake up in the morning is that, hey, the game is actually at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it really threw a wrinkle kind of in our whole day, but it worked out really well, to be honest. We ended up being able to record a podcast in the Tokyo Dome, which is really cool. And then kind of woke up and head straight there because of the timing of the day. And of course, I had to take, by the way, if you can hear this music, this is the music that plays when you're about to come to a stop on the bullet train. So we're about to come to a stop on the bullet train. So we get to the Tokyo Dome, and naturally, as I want to do with every day out here, I took a photo in front of the Tokyo Dome, just to post. And within 30 seconds of being there, I met more Flippin Bats fans. They came up, said hello, said they were fans of Flippin Bats, which will never get old. It's really cool. From there, picture out in front, go straight to the team store because, as I told you earlier, I want to get a jersey of every team, every home jersey for the team that we're there watching. So I went to the team store, looked around for a jersey, didn't know who to get. I asked who the team's best player was and was told numbers 10 and 6, I believe, but they didn't have those jerseys. They were sold out. So I got a Wakabayashi jersey because, 1, I like the name, and 2, they had it in my size. My size in Japan is an XO. I'm not really sure what XO is. In America, that means hugs and kisses. So my jersey size in Japan is hugs and kisses. So I got my jersey, put it on, walked back out front, took another picture in front of the freaking Tokyo Dome, which is so cool. And one of my producers actually bought a Hanshin Tigers jersey in the team store for the Tokyo Giants, which is, now that I think about it, a little weird that they have away team jerseys in their store. But he, being him, decided to buy a Hanshin Tigers jersey. Now, these are the rivals of the Tokyo Giants. Think Red Sox Yankees here. It's a big rivalry, and he just decided to buy the rivals jersey. So from there, we headed into the stadium for the first time, my first time ever being in the Tokyo Dome, and it was pretty special. You walk in, we had to get through the concourse first, which is a big, wide open concourse and super clean, super nice. But the one thing on my mind walking in was, I need to see this field. Walk through the concourse, through the tunnel, and for the first time, I saw the Tokyo Dome. And it was, again, I'm probably going to say this a few times on this trip, a memory that I will never forget, which is seeing the Tokyo Dome for the first time. It's one of the most famous, iconic venues in the entire world. So it made me think, I want to give some fun facts from the Tokyo Dome because it truly is. This isn't just a baseball stadium in Tokyo. This is an iconic venue that's had more than baseball, more than sports even. So some of my favorite facts about the Tokyo Dome, first and foremost, there's a massive roller coaster right next to the stadium. It's called the Thunder Dolphin. So guess what I'm going to be doing at some point? I'm going to ride the Thunder Dolphin. Another one, there's a hotel right in front of, like, you basically have to walk through this hotel to get to the Tokyo Dome. It is called the Tokyo Dome Hotel. Everything here is in Tokyo Dome City. This is a full experience being around the Tokyo Dome. It's not just the dome itself. There's a lot going on there. The Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame is also connected to the Tokyo Dome, so I will certainly be checking that out at some point as well. But one thing that's really apparent to me when I walked in, my first kind of thought walking into the Tokyo Dome, other than, okay, this is incredible, it's also huge and the ceiling is really high, the roof of the building is high, and the capacity, it holds 55,000. And I couldn't stop thinking that Shohei Ohtani hit a baseball through the roof of the Tokyo Dome. There's a video of it. It is unbelievable. The shock on the manager's face was unbelievable. Shohei was like, where'd the ball go? It was unbelievable, the thought that he can even hit a ball through the roof there. It really kind of put it all into perspective, because I've seen the video of it, but being there in person, it kind of hits you like, wait a second, this guy hit a ball through the roof. There's only been 2 players to ever do it, and Shohei Ohtani is one of them. Ichiro Suzuki's final baseball game ever took place in the Tokyo Dome. You remember when the Mariners played the A's in Tokyo back in March of 2019? Before the regular season actually started. These were considered regular season games, but it took place during spring training, which was kind of a funny thing I remember at the time. But Ichiro came. He was part of the Mariners in that series and played the last games of his career in the Tokyo Dome, and got to basically end his career back in Japan, where it all began. So that's a really cool thing, and I actually remember vividly watching that game. But like I said, it's about more than baseball here. The Rolling Stones have played a concert here. The names go on, from iconic music industry legends that have played. But, I mean, the Rolling Stones had a massive concert at the Tokyo Dome. I mean, how cool is that? And another one, again, not just baseball. Mike Tyson, one of the greatest boxers of all time. The first loss of his entire career came at the Tokyo Dome at the hands of Buster Douglas. So there's an iconic photo of Mike Tyson laying on the ground with Buster Douglas standing over him, the Tokyo Dome in the background. So that kind of all hits you when you walk in. You realize it's not just a baseball stadium. Now, the baseball history runs deep there. There's been the Olympics have been played there. The World Baseball Classic has been played there and will be played there, coming up again in March of next year. So it was a really cool place for me to, just walk into. But again, as I did day 1 in Yokohama, where I had to try out all the food, I also had to do that at the Tokyo Dome. So after I kind of took it all in and recorded a podcast from the Tokyo Dome, I went and tried all of the food here. Now, the Tokyo Dome food is probably the best and most extravagant food that you will ever see at a baseball stadium. I mean, this is gourmet food that we are talking about. And speaking of gourmet food, let me start with what I started with. And it was an ice cream sandwich, basically, but it was shaped, and the outside of the ice cream was shaped like the Tokyo Dome. So think sort of like a waffle cone, but it's like a sandwich, and the top and bottom of the sandwich are the Tokyo Dome, and it says Tokyo Dome on it. The outside, it was really cool, and apparently it is a staple, and when you go, you have to get one. So naturally, I started with ice cream. Next up, I'm realizing as I say this, I started with all the dessert, which my mom might not be happy about because she always told me that I can't spoil my dinner, but I did, and I did it again by eating a crepe. Now, this crepe was the best crepe that I have ever had. And I don't say that lightly, but I also haven't had a million crepes in my life, but this one is definitely number 1. It was shaped like a gigantic ice cream cone. So think of yourself holding an ice cream cone, but it's like 5 times the height. And it was warm. It was fantastic. There was chocolate, there was whipped cream, there was bananas. That was one of my favorite things probably my favorite thing from the Tokyo Dome. But then I moved on from the dessert, started with a full-size Tokyo Giants helmet. Okay, so think a full-sized helmet here. This helmet was full of chicken nuggets, popcorn, nachos, cheese, guacamole, all in one helmet. It doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense, and it still doesn't as I say it out loud. But everything in it was good. Everything was great. But it was just the most random collection of things that I've ever eaten in one. And it really did come in a gigantic Tokyo Giants helmet, so had to get that, obviously. Next up that I ate, a crab box. It was like a full box of crab. There was crab meat. There was shredded crab. there was salmon roe, there was rice, there was noodles, and obviously I'm eating this with chopsticks, which is something that I will never get over being out here, is just looking around the stadium and seeing fans eat with chopsticks. I think it's so cool. So I actually really enjoyed that. And next up was a bento box, and this was kind of the last thing that I did, but it was really cool. So a bento box is there were probably 20 different options for the box that you can order. Every player on the team and coach, because I think I ended up getting the coach's bento box, every player comes up with their own bento box that you can order off of a menu. So you can order like your favorite players, and he puts together, let's say, 2 pieces of sushi and chicken and pork and rice over here. Every player puts together a different box. It's so cool. I don't know why we don't do that in America. Think about going to like a Dodgers game and saying, "Oh, I'll have the Mookie Betts, please," and Mookie can put whatever he wants in that box. It's such a cool idea and so interactive. I really like that. I loved the food at the Tokyo Dome. It is basically like a full gourmet street. You just walk down this one row and there's 6 gourmet restaurants that you could order from, and everything comes out so fast. They do a great job. It's much more efficient in Japan with pretty much everything. But then it was time for the game. Now, like I said, this is the Tokyo Giants against the Hanshin Tigers. Think Red Sox, Yankees here. The Tokyo Giants being the Yankees, I would say. It's the iconic stadium. They're a big team. Their payroll is almost double a lot of other teams in the league. And this rivalry, you can feel it. You can feel the rivalry in the stadium because, one, it was sold out, which is really cool. You know, the first game I went to in Yokohama wasn't quite sold out. This one was. The place was packed. You know, all of our producers couldn't even get into the game originally. We had to get them credentialed. It was a whole process because there were no tickets left. There were no tickets available. So the game ends up starting. But one thing I found really cool here is how many fans of the opposing team there are. Yes, the majority are home team fans. The majority are Tokyo Giants fans. But I would say it's honestly around 60%. There's legitimately 40% fans from the other team. And they were so loud. I mean, so let me kind of set the scene here a little bit. The one thing they do really cool in Japan is basically split the fans. So if you're just looking at an aerial view of the stadium, just picture half of the fans on one side and the fans of the other team sit on the other side. Now it's a little more than half. The home team gets a little over half of the stadium, but there's a literal line in the outfield. One of my producers went to the outfield to record a video, and you could see in this video that there's a line in the outfield, like on the concourse, where the fans are separated. If you're fans of the Giants, you're on this side of the line. If you're fans of the Tigers, you're on this side of the line. Now, this was actually the producer that got a Hanshin Tigers jersey. That's what he was wearing. He went out there to record. They wouldn't let him on the other side of the line because of the jersey he was wearing, which I think is kind of a cool thought here. Is like, look, fans are separated. We don't let them mingle amongst each other, and you got to stay on this side. I think it's really cool visually, and I think it's really cool like for the game when it comes to the sound of the game. Like, you know what side is cheering for what team. But it was clear the Tigers fans were much louder. They ended up winning the game, but they were much louder. Tokyo Giants fans didn't have a ton to cheer about that day, but Tigers fans were definitely louder. So game ends up going on. Tokyo Giants lose to the Tigers, and it was a lot of fun to be at. I was there for the whole game.
Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.